We don't have your page up there.
That's fine.
On the new stream.
That's fine. We'll figure it out some other time. I'm not worried about it. 216.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to do that.
We'll figure it out. Hey, man. If we're live, we're live. That's all that matters, right?
That's right. We're almost ready to go live. We're just sitting there
today. Hey, look, there's me. Hi, people on Facebook land. Wow, that's an awesome freeze frame.
Freeze frame.
That didn't look snooty at all.
All right, we're going live in 20 seconds.
Share. Oh.
10 seconds.
I'm still sharing. I shared like 9 times just to my straight face.
Nice. Welcome to Living Low Sodium with Mary Schepp. Join Mary as she tickles your taste buds with her salty wit and her exceptional palate, all whilst guiding us through the land of low sodium. Today, Breads Revisited, or as some people may want to say, give us today our daily bread.
I still can't get over the fact that I literally just shared this to my own feed like 4 times.
Just keep sharing it. Somebody will pick it
right.
up. Which one am I supposed to be on?
Some algorithm is going to see that I've like shared it 19 times, and I'm going to get booted from. I'm going to get put in Facebook jail for sharing it to my page, so my 6 people can see it.
Oh man, Kiki! Hello, Kiki. How are you?
Kiki, I can't wait to see Kiki again. And my dad. Hi, Dad. So we were right before we started the show here. We were talking a little bit about genetics, and I did the 23andMe thing.
Yeah.
And already someone reached out to me. Turns out let me think about this. My grandfather's twin sisters. So she's just me on the other side, like same thing where it's would have been my grandfather Joseph, and then my dad, and then me.
So it's like your
her
cousin.
grandfather, my grandfather's twin sister Mary, and then her mom, and then her. So it's just the opposite side of the twin spectrum. Reached out and said, I think we're related. And we went back and forth because unfortunately it took some doing because she's got kitchens on both sides. So and in my mind, I'm laughing and like, if you got kitchens on both sides of your family, like maybe you shouldn't dig too far. You shouldn't dig too far into your tree.
You might tap that root really quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might be spawned from a carrot. Like you don't really have a whole lot of spreading going on. I was cracking myself up last night about that. Like, whoo, you start talking about when you dig into your family tree and your genetics, but it's just funny because I've been questioning whether or not I want to also do how you were saying the food genetics, like the food biome, because I've always been picked on that I can eat as much potatoes and meat as I want and I don't gain a pound. Give me some ice cream on the other hand, and I got to go up a couple pant sizes in like a week, which doesn't bode well because I eat ice cream almost every night now.
Sugar does that to me right away. Yeah, whether it's in beer or whatever, just right now.
But on the flip side, some of the markers in my genetic testing said that I just don't metabolize certain drugs and things well, which maybe explains why caffeine, the big giant, like caffeine, Novocaine.
Now, what do you go with? What do you got there?
That's just that's just cream and sugar. Normally, I enjoy black coffee as well, but or lattes. I'm a big fan of lattes, but I've become quite the snob because I can taste good coffee. Yeah. When somebody gives you like a really strong coffee with some cream in it and calls it a latte, I get angry because then they charge you like $8 for it. Yeah. It's like, this is not a latte. Yeah, I want 4 shots of espresso.
A cappuccino should not taste like we got it from the gas station.
Right. So I'm a bit of a coffee snob in these days, so I do enjoy it so much. But the genetics behind things, and like with the breads in the celiac sprue and gluten intolerances and so many things. Hey, Nicole, I was going to message her 2 seconds ago, and we have drama in our group.
She found you.
Yeah, she's my bouncer, so don't make me angry or hurt me because she'll come after you. So, but I'd be like the celiac sprue and gluten intolerance. That's all the rage now. Is celiac sprue and celiac and gluten, and even not the celiac part, because a lot of people still don't know what celiac is.
Right.
They just have better ways to diagnose it and know a little bit more about it. But it seems that everybody on the planet has a gluten intolerance. And it's funny to me when so many people go on a gluten-free diet and they're dead set that, I lost weight, my sister lost weight, my family lost weight, we're healthier now. Okay, so you're eating less refined, enriched white bread and more whole grains that aren't wheat, like, rye or other types of oats or things of that nature. So you're eating real food and you're surprised that you lost weight and are healthier. Huh.
Hello, McFly.
That's some pretty amazing stuff you got there. Like,
you must have had a gluten allergy.
Right. And I'm not, I mean, I actually have quite a few very close friends of mine who do have and have been diagnosed with celiac.
Sure.
And also some that
I've got a sister-in-law who is.
So, and it is a very, very, very serious autoimmune disease, and it is not something to take lightly. And unfortunately for the people who actually do have celiac, all of those other people who get an upset tummy because they eat garbage all the time and suddenly they self-diagnose that they're, gluten intolerant.
Yeah.
And they go sit at a restaurant, and then the restaurant's like, yeah, sure, that's gluten-free. You're ruining it. You put other people at a lot of risk for being that asshole. The prima donnas, as we were talking about in the world.
Yeah.
But this all came up because I found the most, and I haven't yet to try it. I was going to try it last night, ran out of time because, life and work and things. Peanut butter bread. So it got me thinking. So my husband likes to determine whether or not something will sandwich. So if we have a whole plate of food, and if you have a, pork roast and some green beans and some mashed potatoes and something else on your plate, or like Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter what it is. We could make homemade hamburger helper. Well, this sandwich, and I can see the look on his face. If I have any kind of bread on the table whatsoever, and he's sitting there, I said, you're wondering if you can make a sandwich out of this. And he'll sit there with a piece of bread and whatever he can cram in there and fold it in half. Make a little sandwich out of it.
So it's not like a Dagwood.
He would if he could.
But it's more, I got to be able to
fold it like a little sandwich taco. And so I was thinking, like, will it bread? I've never peanut butter. Why haven't I made peanut butter bread? How have I not thought to make peanut butter bread?
Why hasn't it? I mean, obviously you found it, but
right.
When I saw it too, I'm like, oh, this would be easy.
Zucchini bread. Banana bread, apple bread, carrot cake. You got all. I have never.
Ezekiel bread.
So as I'm digging into this, there's peanut butter breads, there's peanut butter cakes, and when I say bread, I really always have hated
peanut butter fudge.
Yeah. Oh, see, I made some of that the other. Oh, it's funny because Art's watching when I brought some into their shop, and the look on his face as soon as he popped one of those little peanut butter fudge things in his mouth. Derek from across the room goes, "Oh, they're that good?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is good." This is just peanut butter fudge. But I hate when they call a bread like a zucchini bread or a banana bread. Yeah. That is a cake.
Yeah.
It is a batter with baking soda and baking powder, put in a pan, 45 minutes. It has no rise. It's not. I don't consider that a bread.
No, and it doesn't toast well.
Right. And they're thick and they're dense. They're not that all breads are light and fluffy because you.
No, but you should be able to toast them.
Right. So it always bothers me. So the majority of the peanut butter recipes I came across were cake-like a banana bread, but with peanut butter, which in all honesty still sounds absolutely amazing. And I would eat the shit out of that. But I want to make it a bread. So if you've watched any of my episodes, I brought some bread in here once for the guys. I have now affectionately called it the rolly bread because the way in which it's rolled and then pre-cut before it's made, it pulls apart like these perfect little almost cinnamon rolls that are fantastic. And I want to do that with this peanut butter. So if the bread itself is a peanut butter bread and it's rolled like that cinnamon roll style and put jelly in it, and I know that I'm such a dork because I'm getting so excited about this, but then I will have peanut butter and jelly bread to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on because it's absolutely fantastic. So the question is, will it? Oh, see who made that?
I don't know.
Where'd that come from?
It's in our freezer. You might have made it.
No, I didn't. Oh, no, I don't think that's mine.
Somebody made it.
Somebody, see, he just pulled bread out of the freezer. But it's like that where it's pre-cut. So if we make a bread, like slice it and make it a peanut butter bread, peanut butter and jelly to make peanut butter and jelly on.
Those are props.
So now, it's funny, ironically, up on the ad is what's in your loaf. But so it just got me thinking, what else? What else can I make? I want to make, and that same rolly bread has a banana in it.
A little peanut butter banana,
chocolate.
And
you don't really taste the banana. It lends a moisture to the bread.
I think about you every day when I put a banana in my smoothie.
Because I hate bananas.
Yeah, because you hate bananas. I'm like, well, I'll take one for the team. I love bananas.
Right? I had one this morning. And every single day I eat one of those godforsaken things. I hate them.
I like them so much that when I was a kid, that's what my mom used to call me, banana, because I ate so many bananas. Yeah.
Oh, what did I just do?
So.
Oh, here we go. I'm hitting weird buttons on my phone. So I've been keeping all these little notes on these different kinds of breads because I have a week off coming up here soon. So I'm gonna go nuts with some of these different things.
Get some bread. Go get your bread on.
I can't. I'm such a dork. And even last night, if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't have any milk in the house, because Ben looks at me, he says, You're really, it's 7:00, Mary. You're going to start bread now? And I went, yeah.
Sure.
Started grabbing stuff, realized I didn't have milk and went, oh, okay, all right. So I'm not going to run to the store and start something that's going to take 3.5 hours. Because I am, and I'm shocked at the amount of people who responded to my post. Like how as many people were like, holy crap, this sounds amazing. So either A, enough people have tried it. And a lot of the peanut butter recipes you find for bread are Depression era things. So, who's that?
Bread.
Oh.
I was like, we should have had some bread, like real music from bread.
Right? That's funny. Man, my dad said he's got banana trees in his backyard, down in Florida.
It's the Guitar Man. Bread. Yeah.
Oh, I know that song. Okay.
All right. Before we get kicked off, everything.
Right. So.
Oh, hell, you're my friend.
Yeah, he's got.
Oh, you live in Elgin?
Yeah. He is right in the square middle of Florida.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, he's nice and warm and toasty where we're -5 right now.
It got up to 11 today.
I saw that. And yeah. No.
And then started going back down.
Hard pass.
Yeah,
I can't.
right.
I'm such a baby when it comes to cold. I'm so horribly such a baby.
The first day is not bad, but when it goes into 2 days, you're like, this is ridiculous.
Every day I walk into my store
like, what?
And I just I have an inner monologue of, how I survived our frigid polar vortex back in whatever it was, 2018, when it was,
Remember that?
The ambient temperature was 40 below and the wind chill was like 70 below. So I just keep reminding myself, my car started and I made it through that.
Amen.
And I didn't die.
Amen. Oh, only 77 today.
Oh, yeah. Right. Thanks for rubbing that one in, Dad.
Right. You can take your bananas. No.
I've become obsessed with breads. And when Kim Nordine from Joyfully Well was on here.
Oh, yeah.
And turned me on to milling her own flour. the taste is completely different, and it is so much healthier for you. Now, granted, it spoils faster, which is why it's not something that you find on the shelves, because it doesn't keep. So it's just not, it doesn't make money.
Right.
So it's not
a money
profitable to keep something that only stays good for a few weeks. But it's when you mill your own flour, or when you get fresher flour or more, and I don't want to necessarily say organic, because it's not about that. It's about how processed something is. And that's not just bread. That's
because all around the world, the bread, everybody's got their own kind of bread. And we were talking in the green room before the show. Wonder Bread used to tout, hey, energy and 8 essential vitamins and minerals. And so at one point, bread was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now it's not necessarily a good thing.
It's amazing what advertising can do and tell you that you can live on bread and milk for the rest of your life, until you find out that you're gluten intolerant and lactose intolerant, and you shouldn't be eating those things. And they're nutritionally void of just about everything. So that's why you start introducing the enriched foods, because they have to enrich everything with stuff that you are supposed to have from regular foods.
Hey, Nora, glad to have you with us.
Speaking of more family tree stuff, that's another one.
That's right.
So bread, when people think of breads, they always think of carbs.
Yeah, right up.
And that's not necessarily what makes bread bad, because carbs aren't necessarily bad, and it's the same as bread. The type of bread could be bad, and the type of carbs could be bad. So you need to pay attention. What is that you always say? You need to be present.
Got to be present. Yep.
So as you're looking through, and every time I mention Ezekiel Bread, I laugh, because a friend of someone I know discovered that he has a gluten intolerance. He still has to finish the testing to find out if he has actually celiac sprue. And he asked someone at the grocery store where the gluten-free bread was. So the guy pointed him to the gluten-free section, which is in the healthy section.
Right.
So next to the gluten-free bread is the Ezekiel bread. So Ezekiel is really healthy, and sometimes, depending on what kind of...
I thought that had to be in the freezer or the refrigerator.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because it's sprouted, but it's not necessarily gluten-free. So it says healthy all over it, and it's in what he thought was the gluten-free section. But by the time he gets, because he's been gluten-free for a few weeks at this point, and by the time he gets to work, I mean, he's spitting, he's dying, he's normally frail and pasty to begin with, but he just looked like he was going to die.
Yeah.
Literally cold sweats. I said, and of course, living through this zombie apocalypse right now, when somebody doesn't look like they feel well, they're not the best customer facing kind of situation.
Right.
So his first question, what'd you eat? You have any gluten? No, zero. No, I haven't since we found out I might have an issue until we finish all this testing stuff. I didn't have any gluten this morning. All right. I don't trust you for crap, because you don't adult very well. So what did you eat? What did you actually have for breakfast? Toast? Gluten-free toast? Well, yeah, Ezekiel bread. So that is just sprouted wheat berries. So it's really super healthy, because it's the closest thing you can get to milling your own flour, because they use the whole berry. But you just ate a whole bowl of gluten. No.
What?
Yeah, no. Trust me. Look it up. Google it right now. They said I asked him where the gluten-free section. You need to trust but verify.
Read. That's right. If you don't address it, you bless it. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing is if someone tells you to not eat carbs, or to eat carbs, or not eat bread or eat bread, just because you should watch and not eat white bread doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat bread at all. There's so many different rye breads and Ezekiel breads, and there's different kinds of breads that are way better for you than others. And even when it comes to gluten-free, a lot of times, so I'd always loved touching on this. When a friend of mine was researching all of this for a pizza place that they had, and all of these different flours, because they have gluten problems in their family, they had this amazing white flour shipped over from Italy, and nobody had any issues. And it all came down to essentially how we here in the United States refine our flours. We strip out pretty much everything except for the gluten. All of the wheat germ, all of the oils, everything is all taken out for the sake of shelf life. So they found that they had less of a gluten issue because of the fact that if you have a whole wheat berry and only 2% of it's gluten, you might not have a reaction.
Right.
But if you strip everything away and all you're eating is just the gluten, you might have a reaction.
Right. So back in the day, when we would grind our own flour with Laura Ingalls, we made bread for today and tomorrow, perhaps. And just enough of what we were going to eat. And, well, we had bread with our beans and everything to sop up stuff because, well, we had to eat these 2 loaves today or whatever.
Right.
And then in that second day, we'd grind some more flour to make some more bread.
Yep. And that's...
But now if you look at my countertop, there's like four loaves of bread sitting there for a week and a half, 2 weeks.
And it's just funny to me because you look at something that should be so simple. So when I make bread, and I love this recipe that I have because bread is so much more forgiving than what people realize. And yes, there's a lot of science behind it, and there's a lot of this, that, and the other, but it took me a while to realize that and based on the environment, like it's super dry right now. It is so dry.
It is.
The hardest part about bread is to get the flour to absorb the water, which is why you knead it and you let it rise and all this other stuff. But it was always all of these different steps. You got to let the yeast proof, or you got to do this, you got to do that. So I found this recipe, and I watched this video. Everything's on YouTube. So and I must have watched it 10 times. Like, I'm missing something. They just put everything in the bowl. In goes the flour, in goes the yeast, in goes some sugar and some butter and an egg and some milk.
Stir it all
and
up.
The milk has to be this temperature and the butter has to be this temperature and this has to be, like, you got to sift that and do it. No, it just all went in the pot. You turned on the mixer for 20 minutes and then stuck it and then covered it, let it rise, pull it out. If you're making the other day when I made my bread bowls that I posted, so I cut that batch into 4, shaped 4 balls, let it rise again, then baked it.
Right.
So it takes 3 hours.
Right.
But I didn't do anything. I threw it all in a bowl, turned it on, set a timer, 20 minutes. Come back, saran wrap, an hour. Come back, 4 cuts.
Really?
Roll it real quick into a ball. Looks like garbage. Cover it again, another hour. Shove it in the oven. Everyone's like, oh my God, those are like beautiful. That's like picture quality. You should open a bakery. I was like, yeah, I know this fancy stuff right here. I'm a veteran baker. So it's become my favorite recipe, and every time it looks different.
Sure.
So as long as I weigh my ingredients, because depending on how hot or humid or dry or sticky, a cup of flour is not a cup of flour.
Right.
So as long as I weigh all my ingredients, because when it's dry and it's all fluffy and sticking on everything and whatever, and even still, because the temperature and the humidity and everything is different, some days the batter's super sticky, some days it's not, and every single time it just turns out absolutely fantastically amazing, and it just doesn't matter. So now that I'm not as scared of it, I'm like, let's try this. Let's throw some garlic in there. Let's throw this in. Let's do whatever we want. So now I got this perfect bread recipe. So I'm like, I saw that's why I got so excited. I'm going to put peanut butter in this bitch. I'm going to make peanut butter bread every day. So I can't wait. I'm super excited about
real peanut butter. Or are you going to put that powdery peanut butter stuff in there, that P2?
The only reason I don't like the peanut butter protein is because, like everything else, it's enriched. If I can find me, and I know it's out there, I know you can find out just flat up, but it's part of the reason why I am where I'm at, is because it's just real stuff.
How much of your groceries? I don't know, gross.
What are you having a midlife crisis over there? Trying to be hip?
That's it. Do you get at Walmart or zero? So there's something to be learned there too, to our listening audience, to the tens of thousands of people out there listening, is if you're going to change your eating habits, you also want to change your buying habits. And again, take a little more time, as you're saying, read labels, but maybe you have to go to a different store.
Right.
If you don't want to look like the Walmart people, you shouldn't shop there.
When it comes to shopping, and there's all these different advice, stick to the outside of the store. The grocery stores, any retail establishment, and I'm the general manager of a retail establishment. I know full well about marketing and how to get people to buy stuff. It's so hard because they do everything to get you to buy what they want to buy, and it doesn't matter who they are. They're really, really good at it. All the way down to, why you see a realtor's sign 3 different times or 4 different times. You're like, why do they need 6? Why would you spend $300 a sign and put 6 of them for one property? There's psychology behind all of it. And I can guarantee you we are all fooled by it every single day.
Every day.
And it's the same reason why, the number one diet, the top 2 diets in the world that are prescribed every day by doctors are low sodium and low sugar. Yet they're the 2 things that nobody ever talks about because it doesn't make money.
Right. Yeah.
So the things that make money are the things that are going to make you sexy, the things that are make you feel better about yourself instantaneously. So the gluten-free diets, the keto diets, the whatever diets that, promise energy in a bottle and swimsuits tomorrow and next weekend. They're not about lifestyle change. So I actually try to go to different stores, partially because it makes you look for things. When you go to a store where you know where something's at, you beeline it and you get what you need. And it, surprisingly enough, it leaves you more time to look at the stuff you don't. So if you go to a store that you're not super familiar with, then just to find, like if you're going there to find tomatoes because you're making tacos and you're going to buy a bunch of other crap too. But even if you're going there to buy crap and you're going to buy potato chips or hot dogs or whatever the heck it is, if you have to go find it and you walk by all these other things, it makes you aware of what you have. So if I switch it up, and I do always hit the produce section first, and then I go buy what I need, and then I come back to the produce section on my way through to see what looks good. And that way I've both started and finished my trip in the freshest part of the store. And if I see anything and I'm walking through the store and it's like, oh, the radishes looked really good when I walked in, I don't need radishes today, but what can I make? And all of a sudden I'll make it halfway through the store, pick up the rest of the stuff. So by the time I get back and I go, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to pick up the radishes because radish pesto sounds really good tomorrow night and I'm going to make pasta out of it. But the more you can buy fresh stuff that doesn't have a package, that's the easiest lifestyle change you can make.
Do you make a lot of your own pasta, or do you?
I haven't yet to make my own pasta. We do eat a lot of pasta. Part of the reason I haven't tried yet is because my counter space isn't really conducive to rolling things out.
Yeah.
So I just haven't done that quite yet. But we've actually talked about that quite, and I don't know quite why I haven't, because it's not.
If you're a bread maker, pasta is basically bread. We
just haven't. I think it's because pasta is always the easy dinner. Like last night we had rigatoni because it's super easy. You just boil it up and it's done. I mean, dinner was done in less than 20 minutes and it was fantastic. And I made my own sauce. So that's also part of it, is to get the timing down, to make your dough, let it rest for 20 minutes and make everything else. I'm not very good at timing. So in order for us to not eat at midnight, like I've just now got it down where I can make dinner. Like last night I made my own sauce. I love, it's essentially a pomodoro sauce. Sauteed onions and garlic in white wine. And then as soon as the wine's almost gone, throw in a can of San Marzano tomatoes, mash them up, about a half cup of water, depending on how much pasta I'm going to do. And then my seasonings, which is usually herbs de Provence, some red pepper flake, pepper, balsamic vinegar, missing something, coriander, ground coriander. And it's done. So I've stopped buying pasta sauce altogether because I can make that sauce in the time it takes me to boil the noodles. So I just haven't. The look on my husband's face when I'm like, I'm going to try something new. He like grabs his phone and goes there. I'm going to go upstairs and play some games for a while because we're going to be eating dinner at 10.
Call me when it's ready.
Like, whoopsies.
That's dining.
Yeah, well.
That's dining.
And then if it doesn't turn out, you're like, well, now what do we eat? So it's never.
Now do you as you're baking your bread, do you have the convection oven? Does that make a better bread than the regular oven?
So some shout outs here. Kitchen Outfitters and Sassafras. I love Kitchen Outfitters. I post about them quite often, and they actually sell Sassafras products is where I got my baker. So the best thing to bake bread is more temperature. So if you think of an artisan bread or an artisan pizza, they're usually in these stone ovens, and that's not so much about the stone or the brick oven as it is about the temperature and the moisture. So when I make a nice crusty baguette, that my big blue stoneware baker, which if you can think of a pizza stone, it's the same thing as a pizza stone, only it's shaped like a loaf of bread with a top on it. And the way in which it seals the bread in there at a high temperature and seals it in its own moisture is what creates that crust around it. And the same when I made my bread bowls the other day, by doing them on a pizza stone you want like a 450 degree, 500 degree oven.
Okay.
So whatever your oven maxes out at is where you want it to be to make a really good bread. If you want something more like the soft, squishy white breads, then it's a little bit different. You can do it at a lower temperature and let it go for a longer period of time, kind of like slow roasting a roast. But that nice, crusty, golden brown outside of a bread that gives the outside of it that crust flavor comes from the high temperature, which is exactly the Maillard reaction that I talk about all the time. It's just in the bread. It changes the protein structure into something that's yummy and tasty. So, but it's, I try and shop more to a fresh lifestyle. So the less that I can buy that has a package, I prefer. And if it does have a package, it's something that is literally a can of green beans and that's it. It's green beans. Or if it's frozen vegetables or anything like that. And it's not to say that I don't eat junk food. I eat ice cream every night. I really do.
Oh, really?
Every single night. It's so bad. It's so bad. But it's my guilty pleasure. Oreo cookies, same thing. I love Oreo cookies. Give me half a chance and I'll eat an entire sleeve of cookies. And even bread, I still buy a lot of bread because as much as I know how to make bread, it is time consuming to carve out 3 hours to make a bread. And you can make quick breads or biscuits or anything like that. But there's something to be said to be able to come home and just make a sandwich and then sit down. So I never knock someone for not making their own bread or making their own pasta sauce or making their own pasta or any of that stuff because it's extremely time consuming. But just because you're buying your bread, so I tend to buy rye breads. They're better for you. They're on the carb spectrum. They're usually a little bit more, and as you would call it with your Noom, in the green side of things. Same with Ezekiel Bread. It's when you look at the good versus the bad options. There, you can have bread and you can have store-bought, prepackaged with the 16,000 ingredients, because they have to list all of them. But you can have good stuff. It just
like corn syrup.
Right. Another thing that's in
bread. Yeah, I find myself when it comes to homemade bread, and I love homemade bread. And we used, remember when everybody had a bread maker? Yeah.
I gave mine away.
Yeah, we did too. But I find that I toast homemade bread more than I toast store-bought bread. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know either.
Asking me why you toast bread?
You know what? It's just you know why I think, and this is a truth, is I think because you get a real toast because it's toasty on the outside and it's still fresh and soft on the inside. So it's not like a cracker like most store-bought breads. If you put it in a toaster, you
destroy the roof of your mouth. Right. And that's the problem, is if there was a way to get a store-bought bread from the bakery that it's manufactured at and literally take it out of the bag off the line and open it up and toast it, you'd have the same thing. That's the problem is the amount of moisture that's left in a commercially produced bread. So once you toast it, it's just gone. Yeah. There's no residual actually inside the actual structure of it. But it's just funny to me how there's such a stereotype of when you come, and I always think about the breads because everything, and people look at me and go, oh my God, it just sounds awful to make my own bread or make my own cookies or make my own pasta or make my own. Like, it's really, once you get in the rhythm of it, yes, the bread is one of those things that is just because it has to rise. So it takes
a minute. Yeah.
But all of the other things that I make from scratch all the time, even when I make soup, I made soup the other day and it was half an hour.
Now, do you guys dine in the dining room? Yep. So you see, I think so you're not like out in the living room. You make a nice meal. You guys are sitting down and eating. You're not going out and watching CSI or whatever while you're eating.
We used to a lot more just because of the nature of the way that our house was. We would, and now not, and I mean, now that we eat, the diet that we have, it's not as much takeout and it's not as much, pizza and pre-made stuff. We do it's much more common unless we do splurge and have, frozen pizza or something like that. And yes, and my husband picks on me every single time. Why don't you post pictures of this with your low sodium friends and see how well they chastise you? Like, yes, I am afforded the luxury now that if I want to. Surprisingly, once you have balance in your diet, a hot dog won't kill you.
Right.
So I mean, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of people who have it a lot worse off than I do, and they do have to watch that. But I am, because I am very strict about the balance in my diet, and I know the difference of what potassium does to me and magnesium does to me. And I actually, one of the girls at work the other day said, you mentioned something, and I've been thinking about it because my husband has this issue and blah, blah, blah. And so what the heck does potassium do? You said something about how the part of the reason you eat your bananas and everything is because it helps you get rid of salt. Yeah. And I had to explain the whole thing to her that there's a balance between all that, and you got to be careful if you mess with it.
See, and I think that's a piece of it. When it's an event, right? When you make eating an event instead of just something that I'm doing to pass the time. So you're not in front of a screen, you're not working.
Yep.
When you that's why dudes love to grill, right? Hey, I get to get out and stand next to this and grill.
Right.
And that's why guys love to smoke meat as well, right? Is because, hey,
it's a process.
It's a
thing.
process,
It's an
right?
event. And you get to be a part of something. And it's funny because we do. And we really always have, even when we didn't eat necessarily at the table. It just happens to be that now it's always been, even if we are watching TV, it's still, we sit down and it's not, you're not on your phone, you're not doing whatever, you're, as you say, you're present. But it really does a lot for our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It does a lot for how you treat food. When you actually take the time to sit down and have a meal and let your body register that you're eating food, versus doing something else and being distracted, you eat less, you eat better, and you're more aware of what you're consuming. You eat better portions. So overall, it's an extreme benefit to your health from more than just a food aspect. And I mean that to the truest sense of the word, to sit and have a conversation with somebody. And my husband will pick on me because my phone's on the table. If my building burns down, I'm the first on the call list. Like there's times where if work calls, I'm dedicated. I have to be there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sitting there scrolling through Facebook and chatting with friends or doing whatever. We have a conversation. Now, granted, most of the time the conversation is about how good or bad the recipe is that I created that evening. Because usually it's me making shit up as I go and like, all right, is this a keeper? Is it not a keeper? And then I get yelled at for not writing it down.
Right. Dang it.
I know. This is really good. Do you remember what you did? No, I don't remember what I did.
I had some of this in it.
Right.
And that's kind of the same thing when it comes to bread and making bread. If you're going to make it, it's going to be an event. And I don't care if you're making, your Ezekiel bread, tortillas, you go over to India and they've got that
naan.
Oh, right?
I love naan. That's another one I haven't made.
Right? I mean, it's just, and you're just like, man, this is really, really, but it is, and it's an event.
Yep.
It's something, and I think if people were to look at it that way, as an event and slow down, they might go, well, it doesn't take that long. I mean, yeah, it took 3 hours, but you're not sitting there kneading it for 3 hours.
Right. And and if you don't have a bread maker, it's funny because there's so many recipes that they call no knead bread. You're still technically kneading it. It's just not like the labor intensive.
Right.
It's, you let it sit for 15 minutes and then you fold it a couple times and then you let it sit. I love all of the different options. And I think that's why the peanut butter thing made me so excited.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because now that I have a recipe that is as forgiving as it is, and on top of that, when you start making your own food and you have control over what goes in it. So when Kim Nordine was on the show and she says, just be careful because a lot of times people are like, oh, this bread's really good. And they'll just eat 2 or 3 pieces of bread, which you wouldn't think would be bad. But that's like someone handing you a fiber bar and they're like, this is really good because it's coated in chocolate and you eat 6 of them. And then you wonder why you're crapping for 3 days straight. Because you haven't had enough fiber probably ever in your life. And now that you had more than what you're supposed to do and your system is like, holy crap. And that's exactly it. So I have to be careful because now that I cook with better food every once in a while and my husband will be like, so what is in this? Like, should I not have seconds? Like, what are you saying? You don't like it? He's like, no, I'm saying that if like, is this
watch Osmosis Jones.
Right.
Good movie. So
but that's, so and it's funny because my cabinet now, and Ben picks on me so bad because the one tray, I have a pantry that's got like the slide out trays on the bottom. So I don't, I can be lazy. I don't have to dig back in the corners. And the one is just flour. And so that's the thing about bread.
Almond flour.
You want to make a good bread. And that's anything at all. You get what you pay for, and you got to pay attention to the product you buy, because all-purpose flour, albeit that it has a place, I don't even know if I have any in my cabinet right now. Bread needs high protein, which is why there's bread flour. So yes, you can make bread from an all-purpose flour, but I have bread flour, I've got wheat flour, I've got rye flour, almond flour, I've got xanthan gum, which isn't a flour, but but I have all of oats, all of these different things. And I've discovered that when I make bread, I prefer to make a sponge. So you can proof your yeast, bloom, if you want to be fancy, which is just taking your yeast and whatever liquid, water or milk, and a little bit of sugar to make sure that your yeast is still alive. Warm water, warm milk, whatever it is, and it gets all foamy and frothy. And then you add it to your bread. Or you can do what I do, which is a sponge. And the next step past a sponge, which would be a sourdough, which I have yet to do successfully. I kill the little bugger every single time. Everybody tells me it's so easy. And I don't know. I'm worried about my cats because I don't know how I've kept them alive, because I can't keep this stupid sponge alive.
And if you are ever going to have anybody over, get rid of your potpourri. Just make a loaf of bread.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the house smells fantastic.
It does. It really does. But so the sponge is a cup of flour, which I use rye, and a cup of water and your yeast. And you just let it do its thing. And it
mix it up.
It like a sourdough starter, it just starts to do its thing, and everything comes alive, and it starts doing whatever it's supposed to do. It doesn't get quite the pungent flavor of a sourdough, but because I don't cook with salt, and everybody says like it's a
pinch.
It's a great, the texture's great, the flavor's great, and it's not cardboard. And that's the thing, is a lot of the breads that I buy that are no salt
and gluten-free is usually,
it just is literally like like a rice cake.
Oh,
it doesn't taste like anything. So that sponge is what makes the bread so good. So that's what I tend to do outside of my roly bread, which is the one that goes in the pan, or all in the pot.
Of course, for everybody out there listening, you're got 21.6 the net. You're listening to Living Low Sodium with our good friend Mary Schepp from My Low So Lifestyle. And if you have any questions, feel free to join in the chat. Give her some questions. She'll love to answer those for you. And check her out and like her, follow her on Facebook. Like us, follow us on Facebook, YouTube. We appreciate you being here. Stay warm. And again, on a nice cold day like today, baking bread is beautiful. It warms up your kitchen. There's nothing better you could do.
It really is. I have grown to love it. I really, really have. It's just sad because it's just me and my husband, and even healthy bread, when it you can't just live on bread. So
no, but
when you're watching a balance, and you can't just eat bread. On the flip side of that, when I first went low sodium and discovered that all of these breads, and I had printed out a thing here just so I can your basic white bread, unbleached, enriched wheat flour, and of course it lists all the stuff that's in wheat flour. Water, corn syrup, yeast, soybean oil.
It's healthy. I see vitamin B in there.
Yeah, and contains less. And this is what's funny. So this one that I pulled, it's a really popular bread.
Folic acid.
Serving size is 1 slice.
Yeah.
Pamela says you can make me some. I love making bread. I'll make anybody bread. But so the thing I always thought was hilarious is that the serving size for bread, and I get it, serving sizes are typically based on weights. So it's like 28 ounces, 52 ounces, 1 ounce, 2 ounce, 4 ounces of meat. So I get why they say 1 slice of bread, because based on the weight, 1 slice is about the weight of what you should consume for 1 serving. But whoever, even when I have toast, I have 2 pieces. Go to a restaurant, you get 2 pieces.
You're right.
It doesn't matter. So, but 1 slice of bread, and this one's fairly low. So if you want to look at like a Kaiser roll for a sandwich, on average, those are about 450 milligrams of sodium.
Ooh, wee.
So if you're like, I try to stick to 1,500 milligrams a day. That's a lot of money out of my diet. And this one's 125 milligrams.
So 250.
Right. So a sandwich is 2. So if I want to keep my meal at 500 milligrams for each meal, and I have a lunch, 250. I suck at it. I'm going to have to send you my recipe, Pamela, because I'm not kidding you. If you have a KitchenAid mixer or any kind of stand mixer, the recipe I have is so easy to make.
Send you some Amish French bread starter.
Oh my God! Yeah,
I
can't keep bread starter to save my life, and then the Amish bread starter, they can send that halfway around the world, and that shit doesn't die. I just don't understand. But it's so funny because I always laugh, like the 1 slice of bread. So every once in a while and that's why I say read your label, because every once in a while you will find some of the breads that will list it as 2 slices. But their bread's surprisingly high, especially the blander white breads, because how else are you going to get flavor in there but salt? Yeah.
So in this white bread, sorbic acid to retain freshness.
Yep.
And the corn syrup. I love that.
Hydrogenated vegetable oil.
Right. Just great.
Yep. And the soy
lectin or whatever.
The soy lecithin is the same stuff that you use to make CBD gummies.
Yeah.
It's just an emulsifier. So that's what I will use. And now I can't remember the name of it. Oh, dead air. I'm not going to be able to. I'll remember it later. It's really common in a lot of things as a thickening agent. And you'll see, what are those people?
All right.
Chemical something or others.
You wiped out. You just did inventory at the store. I don't feel like making bread. What's your go-to?
Mushrooms.
Mushroom bread?
Yeah. Like portobello's.
Oh, you're just going to, yeah.
Or, you know what's funny is the Bibb lettuce. Butter lettuce.
Yeah.
There was one day that my husband and I were like trying to figure out what for dinner. Our fridge had plenty of stuff in it. Pantry's got food. We got everything. But what do we want to make? And it was just a hodgepodge. Like nothing made sense. Like I have the ingredients to make a spaghetti, or I have the ingredients for this. So we both kind of felt like burgers, and we had no bread in the house. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to spend 3 hours making bread for us to have burgers. So what are the options? I said, let's be one of those hoity-toity, pompous, no-carb people. Let's try some lettuce for our bread. And surprisingly enough, both of us really enjoyed the Bibb lettuce, just because that butter lettuce, just because the way it is and the way it's structured, and a couple pieces of that. And ironically, it just by its nature, it holds the moisture like a little soup bowl.
Yeah, I was going to ask how it did that. Yeah.
So you're literally just drinking all the lovely little juices from the tomato and the beef and the everything, and it was like this perfect little hodgepodge. So we found, surprisingly, that we really liked to have the lettuce bun.
Yeah.
But so when I was looking at all of these bread substitutes, I've tried it once. I didn't much care for it. It's called it oopsie bread.
I see you have that down here, yeah.
Some people call it cloud bread. It is essentially egg.
Oh.
Eggs, and some people put cream cheese in it, or they'll put thickening. So it's almost like a souffle of sorts. I can't get behind it. I don't like the texture of it. To me, it tastes like an overcooked omelet. Like if you ever go to a bad restaurant and the outside of your omelet's almost brown and it's not fluffy, and
the brown isn't
right. It's just like
from the bacon grease. Mine was a little brown.
Right. So I mean that's kind of what I mean. I just didn't have good oopsie bread, but if I can think of other options, like if you get the giant baker potatoes and slice them long way, and actually essentially just, I mean, you can't really pick it up. It doesn't make a great sandwich.
Right. So I'll make an omelet. Like if we don't have bread,
omelets.
if we don't have bread or whatever, right in that cast, I got the perfect little, it's got to be a little 4-inch or something like that, maybe a 6-inch cast iron.
Yep.
2 eggs in there, and then if we wanted hamburger, you chop up your pickle, you chop up your hamburger, cheese, throw it in there,
put it all in there, roll it up. Right.
Done.
And I'd eat that all day long. Same with tortillas.
And the fluff in the egg comes from water, not from milk.
Right. Yeah.
Just so everybody knows.
Yeah. Milk just. I mean, it's not that milk is bad in an egg. It just doesn't make them fluffier like people think that it does. So usually the biggest thing about making fluffy anything is whipping air into it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yep. That's
But when you add water, to eggs and you cook them, and if you've beaten them enough to get a little bit of air into the eggs, that when you cook them, instead of the cooking process removing the water from the egg itself, it removes the added water that you added to it so that your eggs retain the fluffiness because you didn't take the water out of the actual product.
That's right.
And
that was a salt-free,
I saw that. I stalk you on
except
Facebook.
for that.
Yeah. I'm stealing all your recipes for my cookbook.
That's it.
yours and Pete's.
That's it.
Pete posts his.
But I think I think that's what a lot of people need to do too. Is understand, you don't need bread.
No.
Get creative. I mean, if I'm going to Jimmy John's, I'll have the unwich because it doesn't have the bread.
Right.
It has the lettuce. And
it's so much to do with all of this conditioning. You're conditioned to have a sandwich, and you're just conditioned to eat and that's what's so funny. Like you think of bread as being either a plain white bread or a dessert bread, like a banana bread or something else. So I think that's why I was so shocked about having a peanut butter bread. That's
the real deal.
It sounds fantastic, but you don't until someone goes, "Holy crap! I would have never thought to do that." And that's the same thing with so many things that I make.
Can you do that with rye? Because peanut butter and rye is really good.
Right, and that's my I already have the recipe ready to go and I can't wait. I am so super. And it was funny because some of the results that the reviews I read on these breads that these other people made, it's chewy, it's this, it's that. I said, well, a lot of these are that banana type bread dessert, which the nature of banana bread is, and a lot of breads like that, those cakes, they're very much like a muffin. So there's a difference between a cupcake, like cake, and muffins and the way that they're made. And if you overmix a muffin, the same as you overmix a banana bread or something like that, it becomes chewy. And it's unpleasant to most people, which is why you have good bakeries and bad bakeries. They understand that. So I think most of the time is more of a technique behind a recipe than the fact that there's peanut butter inside of a recipe. Yeah. It's the same concept. So I'm super excited. But yeah, when I stopped making, we tried the whole mushroom sandwich thing. And just for ease of eating it, I since usually just make a stuffed mushroom. Because if it's going to get me all gross and disgusting and whatever, I'll just eat it with a fork. I'm not, I just won't. But you can have, when you get better breads, like I said, a lot of the better breads, like the Ezekiel's or the whole wheats, and that aren't enriched with all of the processed crap, especially when you can make it yourself, the amount of nutrients in them is so much more significant, and they are so much further on, like on yours with the Noom on the green side of things, or when you're talking about sugars and refined carbs, or complex carbs versus crappy carbs and all this other stuff, they're lower on the glycemic index because your body takes longer. So the carbs are better the longer they take you to process. It's those quick burning sugars that are bad for you. So when you eat the garbage that your body turns into sugar real quick, or you just flat out eat the sugar, that's where you tend to get into problems with all of this crap. So it's not necessarily the bread that's the evil component.
Right.
It's the kind of bread. It's the same with food. Food's not evil. It's the kind of food that you eat. So I wish that and it's just so disheartening because you wish that there was a way to make so many more people aware of the fact that it is that simple of an answer. Yeah. I said that before the show. Let's just get everybody, let's go on the show, tell everybody the answer, eat real food. But then our show would be about 30 seconds long.
Right.
Mic drop, gone.
That's it.
And that's my trick.
That's it. And look, that takes us right into where we wanted to be for the day.
Woot woot.
Right at the top of the hour.
We can't go 6 more hours, so I don't have to go out in the cold.
Well, if you want to hang around for It's Your Move, you're more than welcome to. Of course, It's Your Move coming up at 6:15. Today, the topic is social media motivational quote people. Stick around. Come back for Living Low Sodium and my low-so lifestyle. Mary Schepp, thank you all for being here with us. Come back in 15 minutes as we get ready for It's Your Move. Tomorrow, we'll start the day off with Uncle Pete. We'll have a few other shows in there. We'll have the deep dive with Nick Espinoza, and then we'll have Anything Goes with Bremer and Jones.
We might have a couple of guests on our show next week.
Hey, all right. We're going to love it.
Cooking. Everybody likes to crash.
Everybody loves crashing the cooking. Mm-hmm. All right. So for all of us here at 21.6 The Net, thanks for getting caught in the net.